What if the secret to success wasn't found in the classrooms you'd expect, but in the hum of a market stall, the clink of coins, and the scent of fresh fruit? For Lily and Liam, it wasn't just their home, it was their classroom, their first step toward an unimaginable future. When they were children, their parents, both hardworking and determined, had little to offer beyond love in the hope that their children would succeed. They couldn't afford private tutors, and extracurriculars were out of the question. But what they lacked in resources, they made up for in grit and ingenuity. Every evening after school, the twins would take turns sitting at the market stall, balancing homework between customer orders. One would write equations while the other would serve the regulars, only to swap places as soon as the clock ticked past dusk. The market stall, located in a busy part of town, was a maze of colors and smells. Freshly baked bread, ripe tomatoes, and baskets of exotic fruits all competed for attention. But amidst the buzz of chatter and clinking coins, the twins made it their own quiet space. Their notebooks, covered in a layer of dust from the daily bustle, became their most treasured possession. Homework wasn't just a task, it was a way to escape their circumstances and build something better. Their mother, a hard-working woman who ran the stall, would often glance at them from the corner of her eye as she greeted customers. A soft smile on her face, she knew the twins were doing their best. Even though the small market stall couldn't offer the comfort or quiet they needed to study, but they persisted. They swapped turns, helping each other solve problems and turning the stall into their makeshift classroom. They learned the value of teamwork, the importance of discipline, and how to balance the demands of schoolwork with the challenges of real life. It wasn't easy. There were distractions, people calling out for the freshest apples, the thrum of the nearby busy streets. But it was in that market stall that Lily and Liam found a rhythm and a sense of unity that propelled them forward. They may not have had much, but they had each other and their shared dreams. Every time they faced a tough question or a confusing problem, they would help each other. "Don't worry, we'll figure it out together," Lily would say as she handed Liam her notes. While he set aside his basket of tomatoes to glance at her homework, it was their way of staying connected. A bond that grew stronger with every challenge they faced. Their childhood wasn't filled with the comforts of new toys or weekend trips, but it was filled with something far more precious: hard-earned lessons, perseverance, and the knowledge that no matter how hard life got, they could always rely on each other. As the years rolled by, their dreams grew bigger than the market stall they called home. Liam, with his hands always tinkering with something broken, fell in love with the mechanics of how things worked, how engines roared to life, and how objects that seemed unrelated could come together to form something greater. Lily, ever the architect at heart, sketched plans for buildings that reached for the sky, always imagining what it would feel like to design something that would stand the test of time. Despite the challenges, they soared in their studies, always helping each other, growing together, and turning their shared hardships into a source of motivation. They both excelled in their classes, often staying late after school to finish their assignments, their textbooks sprawled across the small kitchen table, or scribbled in the margins of their notebooks during quiet moments at the market. Their homework had always been done together, but now, their aspirations were taking them down different paths that required more than just late-night studying at a market stall. Lily dreamed of being an architect, designing bridges that spanned across rivers and buildings that stood tall in the face of adversity. She would spend hours sketching her ideas, using whatever materials she could find: paper napkins, old receipts, anything that could hold her drawings. Meanwhile, Liam began to notice his growing interest in mechanics. He wanted to understand how engines worked, how machines could come together to create something powerful. He tinkered with old radios, engines, anything he could get his hands on. He would pull apart clocks and old tools, fascinated by how each part had its role. Despite their dreams of higher education, they had their doubts. The road ahead seemed impossible. How could two children who grew up in the heart of the market, surrounded by the daily grind of customers and endless tasks, ever make it into a prestigious college? How could they stand out in a world so full of opportunities for others, but so few for them? But they never gave up. With their shared determination, they both applied to universities, Liam to study mechanical engineering, and Lily to pursue architecture. They knew their chances were slim, but they had the will to succeed. Late nights continued, but now, the textbooks and sketch pads were not just filled with school assignments, they were filled with hopes for a brighter future. One where they would no longer need to take turns at the market stall, but would instead create the world they had always dreamed of. When the acceptance letters finally came, it was a moment neither of them would forget. It was as if the entire world shifted beneath their feet. The stall, the market, the long hours, they all faded into the background as their new chapter began. They were going to college. They were going to follow their dreams. And for the first time in their lives, the world seemed to offer endless possibilities. They knew, however, that this was only the beginning. The journey ahead would be hard, filled with challenges they couldn't yet imagine, but they had a foundation of resilience built on those long, shared nights at the market stall. Their bond had been forged in the fire of struggle and ambition, and now they were ready to take on the world. Now, as professors at one of the top engineering universities in the country, Lily and Liam stand before eager students who, much like they did years ago, have big dreams, but they haven't forgotten the market stall. Every lecture is an opportunity to inspire, to remind their students that it's not where you start, it's where your determination and hard work can take you. The twins, who once balanced homework between customer orders, now pass on their knowledge to those who will one day shape the world. Lily stood in front of a packed lecture hall, her hands steady as she explained the intricate details of structural engineering to a group of freshman students. Her eyes scanned the room, her gaze landing on a few students whose faces reminded her of her younger self. They were the quiet ones, the ones who took careful notes, looked up at her with wide eyes full of hope, just as she had once looked up to her professors. She smiled to herself, knowing that each one of them could one day achieve greatness, just like she had. They only needed the right guidance, the same way she had once received guidance in the unlikeliest of places. Across campus, Liam was teaching his group of students. His subject was mechanical engineering, and his students were just as eager as Lily's, if not more so. Liam had always loved the challenge of building and fixing things, and his passion for engineering was contagious. He took pride in the fact that he could share his knowledge, not just as a professor, but as someone who had been in their shoes. He remembered what it felt like to be unsure of his future, to not know how he would pay for tuition, to wonder if he was smart enough to belong in a world of top-tier students. But he had made it, and now, he was determined to help his students make it too. Their success hadn't come without sacrifice, but they had always made it work. Long nights of study at their cramped apartment, balancing part-time jobs with their academic responsibilities. Nothing was easy, but they had each other, and that was enough. They often spent weekends together, studying or discussing the latest research in their respective fields, always pushing each other to think bigger, to be better. Now, years later, both Lily and Liam stood at the front of classrooms filled with students eager to learn from them. And they taught not only the subjects of engineering and architecture, but also the deeper lessons they had learned during those early days at the market. They taught the value of persistence, of teamwork, of believing in something bigger than yourself, and most importantly, they taught their students that no dream was too big if you were willing to work for it, no matter where you started. As the semester came to a close, the twins sat together in the university's cafe, their conversation naturally drifting back to the market stall. It was hard to believe how far they had come. The laughter of students echoed in the background, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. Their lives had taken them far beyond the hustle of market sales and shared homework, but they would never forget where it all began. Liam turned to Lily and smiled. "Can you believe we made it? All those nights at the stall, all the challenges we faced, and now look at us. We're teaching the next generation." Lily nodded, her eyes reflecting the same pride. "We did it, and now It's our turn to help them do the same. Their shared journey, from market stall to university lecture halls, was proof that no dream was too far out of reach and that the most valuable lessons were often learned in the unlikeliest of places. As they prepared to leave for the day, Lily paused, turning to Liam one last time. "You know," she said, "I think we've got a lot more to teach them than just engineering. The real lesson is about never giving up, no matter what." Liam smiled. "And if we can do that, then we've already changed the world." And with that, they both walked out of the cafe, ready to face another day, another group of students, and another opportunity to change lives, just as they had changed their own. As the years passed, the twins' influence in their fields continued to grow. What had begun as late-night homework sessions in a busy market stall had transformed into a powerful legacy. Students from all over the country now sought after their expertise, eager to learn not only the technical aspects of engineering and architecture, but also the stories of perseverance and resilience that Lily and Liam shared. Their university programs flourished, and the twins often spoke at conferences, sharing their unique perspective on overcoming adversity. But they didn't let the fame get to their heads. They always stayed true to their roots. They remembered the nights spent under the flickering fluorescent lights of their market stall, and how those moments had shaped them into the professors, mentors, and innovators they had become. Lily often found herself back at the market, though now it was as a visitor, not a worker. She stood by the same stall, now run by her parents, and could still see the faint lines of where her and Liam's books had once been sprawled across the table. It was surreal to think that it had all started here, but it reminded her of the importance of never forgetting where you come from, no matter how far you go. For Liam, the changes in their lives were just as striking. He still tinkered with machines in his spare time, designing prototype engines and experimenting with new technologies. And, though he no longer worked in the same old repair shops, he still carried with him the lessons he had learned there, how to look beyond the surface, how to fix what was broken, and most importantly, how to think outside the box. But it wasn't just their poor knees that mattered. They knew their ultimate goal was to give back to the community that had raised them. They had both contributed to scholarships for underprivileged students, ensuring that others could have the same opportunities they had. They often mentored young engineers and architects, offering guidance to those who came from backgrounds similar to their own. They knew the importance of the support system, the way a helping hand could mean everything to someone just starting. One day, while Lily was reviewing blueprints for a new building design, Liam came into her office with a grin on his face. He had just received a call from one of their former students, now a successful young architect. The student, who had once struggled to even afford the cost of textbooks, was now leading a team in the construction of a new skyscraper in the city. The twins smiled, knowing that this was what they had been working toward all along, helping others rise. Just as they had, as they reflected on their journey, both twins were struck by the same thought. Success wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about the impact you had on others. Their real legacy was not in the buildings they designed or the machines they built, but in the lives they changed along the way. In the end, it was the simple moments, the laughter shared over coffee with students, the pride of seeing a former pupil succeed, the quiet satisfaction of knowing they had given everything they had to teach others, that defined their lives. And so, as the sun began to set over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the campus, Lily and Liam sat together on a bench outside the university. They had made it. No longer those children sitting at a market stall, struggling with homework. They had become the teachers, the mentors, the inspiration for the next generation. The market stall, with its humble beginnings, was far behind them now, but the lessons they learned there, of persistence, of teamwork, and of believing in something bigger than themselves, remained at the heart of everything they did. "You know," Liam said, looking out at the campus, "I think we've built something even more important than we ever imagined." Lily nodded, her gaze steady. "We didn't just build structures or machines. We built minds, futures, and dreams." And as the stars began to twinkle in the sky above, they knew that their work was far from over. The next generation was already waiting, ready to learn, ready to grow, and it was up to them to continue the cycle, just as their parents had once done for them. And with that, they stood up, ready to take on the future together. As always, the success of Lily and Liam wasn't just marked by their achievements, but by the ripples of change they created in the world around them. As time went on, their impact reached far beyond the university walls. They had become living proof that no matter where you came from, your dreams were valid and attainable. Their former students, inspired by the twins' humble beginnings and determination, began to follow in their footsteps. Some started their own companies, some designed buildings that became iconic landmarks, and others engineered systems that helped improve the world in ways no one had imagined before. But no matter how far they had come, they never forgot the lessons taught by Lily and Liam. The twins began to receive invitations from global conferences, not just as experts, but as symbols of hope for anyone who had ever been overlooked or underestimated. Yet, they always returned to the same message in every speech. Success is not measured by how far you climb, but by how many you lift along the way. One day, a former student named Rachel, now an established architect, approached Lily with an idea that took her by surprise. "Lily, you taught me how to design with purpose, to create spaces that matter," Rachel said, "but I want to do something bigger. I want to build communities, not just buildings, something that can give back to people like us, people who are struggling but have the potential to thrive." Lily, taken aback, smiled warmly. "What do you have in mind?" Rachel explained her vision of a new project, a low-income housing community designed with the principles of sustainability and innovation. It would be more than just a place to live. It would be a community that could grow, learn, and support each other. She wanted to combine the architectural skills Lily had taught her with the community-driven values Liam had instilled in her. "It's the legacy I want to leave behind," Rachel continued. "A place where others can start, just like we did. A place to dream big, to build something lasting." Lily was moved, and without hesitation, she agreed to lend her expertise. Together, they embarked on a project that would become one of the most significant of their careers. The housing development didn't just provide homes, it created a sense of belonging, a foundation for people to build their lives upon, just as Lily and Liam had done. The community became a living, breathing testament to the power of dreams and determination. Meanwhile, Liam was working on a separate but equally impactful project. Inspired by his own childhood fascination with mechanics and technology, he partnered with a team of engineers to create affordable, sustainable energy solutions for rural communities. It wasn't just about building machines. It was about empowering people to be self-sufficient and to thrive in environments that had long been neglected. The first major success came when Liam's team installed solar-powered generators in several off-the-grid villages. The impact was immediate. Schools could stay open later, clinics could offer more services, and families who had never had access to electricity could now power their homes and their businesses. For Liam, it was a dream realized. He had always wanted to make a difference, to create something that would change lives in ways that lasted. But as successful as these projects were, the twins never stopped believing in the core lesson that had started it all. The greatest success comes not from what you can build, but from what you can give back to others. Years later, as the twins stood together at the graduation ceremony for their final group of students, they reflected on everything they had accomplished. The campus was buzzing with excitement as graduates walked across the stage, receiving their diplomas. Among the crowd were several familiar faces, former students who had once sat in the same seats, listened to the same lectures, and now were ready to take on the world. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Liam asked, his voice soft but filled with wonder. Lily nodded, watching the sea of students walk across the stage. "I do, but more than anything, I think about how far they'll go. They're the ones who will shape the future now. Our job is to give them the tools, and they'll do the rest." As the ceremony came to a close, The twins exchanged a glance, their hearts full. They had not only built their dreams, they had helped countless others build theirs. And that, to them, was the greatest reward of all. With a final glance at the horizon, they knew their work was far from finished. The world was full of potential, of dreams waiting to be realized, and they would continue to inspire, teach, and uplift. Because the legacy of a dream, once shared, could never be forgotten. It would ripple through generations, touching the lives of those who needed it most. And as they walked off the stage, side by side, they knew one thing for sure. They hadn't just taught engineering, they had taught the world how to dream, how to rise, and how to never stop building. As the years continued to pass, Lily and Liam found themselves returning to the place where it all began, the market stall. It was now run by their younger cousin, but every time they visited, it was impossible not to feel the weight of the memories that lingered in the air. The same rough wooden tables, the same worn-out chairs, and the familiar scent of fresh produce still filled the small space. It was as if time had stood still here. Yet their lives had evolved into something far beyond what they had ever imagined. The twins had become not just mentors, but symbols of hope for generations to come. Their names were known far and wide, not just in engineering and architecture circles, but across communities where people were eager to break free from the constraints of their circumstances. Just as Lily and Liam had, they had become champions for those who, like them, had come from humble beginnings but dreamed of something bigger. But as the twins grew older, they realized that their journey had only just begun. They had spent their entire lives teaching others how to dream and build. But now it was time to ensure that the work they had done would continue long after they were gone. One evening, as they sat in a quiet cafe near the university, Liam spoke up, his voice thoughtful. "Lily, have you ever thought about what happens when we're no longer around? What happens to everything we built?" Lily took a sip of her coffee and looked out the window, her mind wandering back to the early days. "I think about it all the time," she admitted. "We've built so much, but what matters most is that the lessons we've taught, the values we've shared, continue to shape the world. We have to find a way to ensure that the next generation carries on what we've started." They both knew the answer. It had been in front of them all along. The students they had mentored, the engineers and architects they had inspired, the communities they had uplifted. The real legacy wasn't just in the projects they had completed, but in the minds and hearts they had touched. And so, the twins began to focus on creating a foundation, one that would continue their mission of providing education, mentorship, and resources to those who needed it most. Their foundation, called The Bridge to Tomorrow, was built with a clear vision to offer scholarships, internships, and mentoring programs to underprivileged students who dreamed of pursuing careers in engineering, architecture, and technology. The goal was to ensure that the opportunities Lily and Liam had fought for could be extended to others who lacked the resources but had the same drive and ambition. They knew that the next generation would need guidance and support to build a better world, and they were determined to provide it. As the foundation took off, the twins found themselves back in the classroom. But this time, they were teaching the future educators, the next generation of mentors who would continue the work they had started. They held workshops, hosted talks, and collaborated with schools and universities to build a stronger network of support for those in need. Years later, when they retired from teaching, they found peace knowing that the Bridge to Tomorrow had become a powerful force in shaping the future. The foundation had empowered thousands of students, given rise to countless innovations, and helped create a world where dreams were no longer limited by background, but by the ambition and hard work one was willing to put forth. On their final day as professors, Lily and Liam stood together in the lecture hall. One last time addressing a new class of students, they looked out at the sea of young faces, eager and full of potential, and smiled. They had done it. They had built a legacy that was not only carved in stone, but also in the hearts and minds of every person they had touched. "We may not have had much when we started," Liam said, his voice steady but full of emotion. But we had each other, and we had our dreams, and that's all we needed. Lily nodded, her eyes glistening. We didn't just build careers, we built a future, and now it's your turn to do the same. As the final bell rang, marking the end of another semester, the twins left the lecture hall side by side. They had no regrets, only pride in the legacy they had created. The journey from that humble market stall to this moment had been long and filled with challenges, but it had been worth every step. And as they walked away from the university, hand in hand, they knew that the work was far from over. The world was still full of dreams waiting to be realized, and they had given everything to ensure that those dreams would always have a place to grow. The story of Lily and Liam, the twins who once took turns doing homework at a market stall, would live on forever, and so would the countless others whose lives they had changed, because the most lasting legacy was the difference they had made in the world. As time went on, the twins continued to witness the far-reaching effects of their foundation, the bridge to tomorrow. Anuru, what had started as a simple vision to help young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, had blossomed into a global movement. The foundation, now with branches in multiple countries, had empowered thousands of students, each of whom carried the torch of the twins' mission into their communities and professions. Lily and Liam, now in the twilight of their careers, were content knowing that their legacy was not just in the buildings and machines they had created, but in the lives they had touched, the dreams they had nurtured, and the opportunities they had provided. They had always believed that everyone deserved a chance to reach their potential, and through their foundation, they had turned that belief into a reality for countless individuals. On one quiet evening, the twins sat on the porch of their childhood home, looking out over the fields that stretched beyond the horizon. The sounds of birds in the distance and the gentle rustle of trees filled the air. And for the first time in a long while, they found themselves in a rare moment of peace. "I've been thinking," Liam said, breaking the comfortable silence. "What if we had never made it out of here? What if we hadn't taken that first step, done that homework under the dim lights of the market stall?" Lily smiled softly, her gaze lingering on the distant skyline. "We would have still found a way," she replied, "because our dreams weren't limited by where we came from. We always knew we could change things, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us." Liam nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "It's strange, isn't it? How everything we've built, everything we've achieved, came from the simplest of beginnings. Sometimes I wonder how many people out there never take that first step because they think they don't have what it takes." "Too many," Lily said, her voice filled with the wisdom of years spent teaching and mentoring. "But that's why we created the Bridge to Tomorrow. We didn't want anyone to feel that way. We wanted to show them that it doesn't matter where you start. It's what you do with what you've got that counts." As they sat together, watching the sun set behind the mountains, a sense of fulfillment washed over them. Their journey had been long, filled with sacrifices, challenges, and moments of doubt, but they had never lost sight of their mission: to teach, to uplift, and to create opportunities where none had existed before. Their final act of giving came when they decided to endow a scholarship fund for future generations of educators, engineers, and architects, those who would carry their legacy forward. They named it the Lily and Liam Dreamers Scholarship as a reminder to the world that anyone, no matter their background, could dream big and achieve greatness. In the years that followed, the scholarship fund grew, allowing even more students to pursue their dreams. The circle of impact that began with the twins' humble beginnings had now reached the farthest corners of the world. It was a circle that would continue to grow, with each new dreamer passing the torch to the next. One day, as Lily and Liam sat together at their favorite cafe, a young woman approached them. She was carrying a notebook, the same way Lily had once done years ago, and looked uncertain but determined. "Excuse me, Professor Liam? Professor Lily, I just wanted to say thank you. Because of your foundation, I'm here today. I'm studying mechanical engineering, And I never would have been able to afford it without the scholarship. Liam smiled warmly, reaching out to shake her hand. It's all because of your hard work. We only provided the opportunity. You've done the rest. The woman's eyes sparkled with gratitude. I promise. I'll make sure your legacy lives on. I'll do everything I can to make you proud. Lily smiled, her heart full. You already have, just by being here. As the woman walked away, the twins exchanged a glance. They had given the world more than just their expertise. They had given the world hope. Hope that no matter where you started, no matter how small or insignificant your beginnings may seem, you can always make a difference. You could always change the world. And in that moment, surrounded by the bustling life of the cafe, they knew that their legacy would never fade. It would live on in every student they had mentored, in every building that stood as a testament to their work, and in every engineer who had learned to dream without limits. The story of Lily and Liam had come full circle, from the market stall to the lecture halls, from humble beginnings to global impact. Their journey was one of perseverance, hope, and, most importantly, the belief that dreams could come true if you were willing to work for them. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, they stood up, ready for whatever came next, knowing that their work was never truly done, because the legacy of a dream, once shared, would always continue to ripple forward. As the sun sets on the incredible journey of Lily and Liam, their story stands as a testament to the power of dreams, resilience, and the unwavering belief that anyone can overcome their circumstances with hard work and determination. From humble beginnings at a market stall to becoming leaders in engineering and architecture, they have built a legacy that continues to inspire and empower others. Their message is simple. Your background doesn't define your future. Your drive and the willingness to help others along the way do. Through their foundation, the bridge to tomorrow, they have not only provided opportunities to the next generation of engineers and architects, but have shown that true success is measured by the lives you touch and the difference you make in the world. Lily and Liam's legacy will continue to ripple through time, inspiring countless others to dream big, work hard, and never stop building. And as their journey shows us, the power of education, mentorship, and community can change the world, one dream at a time.